This was another amazing moment, proving Punk as a valuable asset to any company, whether he's wrestling or not. This would not be the end of Punk's night, as he would come out during the main event to celebrate with Cody Rhodes in his crowning moment, which was, again, a very poetic moment, as these two were guys who 3 years ago were hugging an AEW ring, going through hell and back just to be at the top of the mountain where we never thought we'd see them again, who, again, were really like if there's no Cody Rhodes and if there's no CM Punk, if WWE treats these guys like they're being treated right now, there is no AEW. There is no Tony Khan in wrestling business. There is no Young Bucks on A&E or whatever, not A&E, TNT. There is no Young Bucks on TNT. There is no Kenny Omega on the big stage. Like, CM Punk and Cody Rhodes are the catalyst for AEW even existing whatsoever. And here they are hugging and kissing on the biggest stage in WWE history, WrestleMania 40. The irony of it is just you can't write stories this ironic. This capped off a beautiful weekend for Punk, which started with him celebrating the man who gave him the tools to be here in the first place, Paul Heyman, as he was taking his rightful place in the WWE Hall of Fame. Punk would sit front row right next to his best friend's kids. None of this would have seemed possible without the drama that Punk and AEW went through, and everyone was just happy it was over. Punk had all these legendary moments and reunions that were decades in the making. AEW was getting more ridiculous than ever, doing everything they wanted to more than ever. Drinking blood, jumping from ladders on the glass, stapling each other with staple guns, bad comedy skits, and something about a devil, which I'm not too proud to admit I was a fan of at first. But no matter what you thought about the television, the quality of television will always be reflected in the numbers, whether that's ticket sales, ratings, merch, and AEW's numbers were plummeting. Ratings-wise, merch-wise, ticket sales-wise, every metric. Whether that was because Punk leaving, Cody leaving, injuries to stars, or just bad television, things were getting dire for AEW, and at the worst time possible as well, as AEW was approaching their final year of their media rights deal with Warner Bros. Discovery. And in business, it's unfortunately a what have you done for me lately type of environment. So AEW was desperate, and we all know desperate times calls for desperate measures. And AEW would do something no other wrestling company would be able to do for a very long time. They would overshadow WWE during WrestleMania weekend. After night one of WrestleMania weekend, AEW would announce they would be releasing footage of the incident at All In between CM Punk and Jack Perry. I'll admit, as a Punk fan, I was worried. I thought for the first time Punk would be exposed as a liar. There was no way AEW would air this footage if they didn't think it would expose Punk as a fraud. Many believe this was a response to Punk's interview with Ariel Helwani the Monday before WrestleMania weekend. Either way, people were hyped. Although it was reported that talent was not as enthused about the segment, regardless of how people felt, it was really happening. Some people thought it was going to be a bait and switch, as the outcome could not be anything positive for AEW in the long run. Best case scenario, they show Punk as a hothead liar who deserved to be fired. In worst case, they show Punk was telling the truth and everyone in AEW is soft for blowing this out of proportion. Either way, none of that affects AEW in a positive way. This segment does nothing but draw attention to someone who is no longer in the company, and also proves that they need him more than they're willing to admit. I'm not happy to admit how much I was looking forward to this episode. It very much dominated my Wednesday. Right before the show started, it was speculated that Punk and his lawyer may be looking to sue AEW for showing this footage, as said lawyer posted a law in London stating that you can't show private footage of an individual without their consent. It was really messy and nothing has come of it since, but I thought I should add that to this. I don't know, it was kind of weird. It was a lot of pre-show hype to this nonsense. It was reported that Punk was not shook about the plans to air the footage, but I, as a fan of his, could not shake this feeling that AEW would not be this dumb. So it was finally time. And the segment started with the Young Bucks explaining their intentions as to why they're showing the footage. The Bucks were continuing their feud with the current tag team champions and best friends of CM Punk, FTR. This would be the first time these two teams have squared off since the same event where Punk crashed out and quit All In 2023. The Bucks would say as EVPs, the fight backstage took their minds off the match, which led to them losing. Some wrestling kayfabe nonsense. But it was kind of slick, I must admit. Before showing the footage, though, they would take shots at Punk, never naming him, but saying he tried to make All In about himself and bringing up the most ironic thing Punk has ever said, which AEW fans will never let him live down. When Punk first arrived in AEW, he gave a lot of praise to Jack Perry, saying that if anyone has a problem with Jack, then they're the problem. Punk would also then say he's going to kick his ass one day as well.
Someday I'm going to kick your ass.
But people seem to leave that one out for some reason. The Bucks would try to justify showing the footage by accusing FTR of having Punk start problems to distract the EVPs. One of the Bucks would interrupt him, saying you can't accuse people of, like on a public platform, of conspiracies with no evidence, mocking Punk for his assumptions on the Young Bucks, which again was another slick shot. But again, we can't ignore all the evidence. Again, like, come on, Meltzer driver, come on. The Bucks would then proceed to show the footage, and it was bad, man. Like, it was bad. I wish I could watch the footage for the first time again, man. If you were an AEW fan, it was literally everything Punk said it was. He walked up to Jack. They had words. Punk pushed him, then put him in a chokehold. Samoa Joe and security broke it up. Punk, while being grabbed by security, has a free arm where he points at Tony Khan and visibly yells at him, breaks away from security where he then walks off. This is everything. I just summed it up for you. It's about a minute long footage, and I just summed it up for you in 15 seconds.
I went to Tony, and I was just like...
Which Tony, by the way?
Tony Khan.
Okay.
And I was like, please handle that. Like, please. And he was like, what do you want me to do? And I was like, I'm not telling you what to do. Just be the boss, please. Like, I'm tired of this shit. You know? Like, I told you this was a mistake. I told you separate shows wasn't going to work, and now we're all here, and, you know, like, please handle it. Because if you don't, you're not going to like the way I handle it.
Did he handle it?
No. No.
So you did?
Yes.
What happened?
Jack came back from his match. I was the next match. I'm sitting there. I got people with me. I'm not going to say who they are, you know, because I got a lot of friends who work there, and I wish them all well, and I don't want them to be punished because they're friends with me, you know. And I walk up to him, and I'm just like, Jack, why do you insist on doing this dumb internet shit, like on TV, you know? And he's just like, well, if you got a problem about it, do something about it. And I was just like, man, come on, man. You know, I'll fucking kill you. Like, what are we doing, you know? And it just, you know, it's like Chael says, sometimes you just can't let you get close, you know? I thought I was doing a responsible thing, you know? I didn't punch anybody. I just choked somebody a little bit. Samoa Joe was there, told me to stop, and then I quit. I turned to Tony and I said, this place is a fucking joke, man. You're a clown. I quit.
Yeah, it was a nothing burger. Nothing we all haven't seen before. But you can't fight your coworkers, even though it's not just regular coworkers. Like, we're not in a fucking office. We're athletes. But hey, again, it was everything Punk said it was. Yes, it does look like he threw a punch, but it didn't connect. And you can loosely say he lunged at Tony Khan. But if you're in fear for your life by someone who's being held back by security, points at you and calls you a clown, I can't feel bad for you. This was disasters for AEW. They were being clowned relentlessly on social media. People left watching the show to join the fun of discussing this blunder, and the rest of the show was irrelevant. It helped the ratings for the time being, but it did not keep the audience. You can even make the argument it hurt the audience, as they haven't drawn this high ratings since. And to this day, they haven't even come close to it. Some people say this is where AEW jumped the shark, and I tend to disagree, but again, that's a different video for a different day. This night on social media was one of the funniest to be a Punk fan, as he even joined the fun, posting this hilarious meme of George Bush saying mission accomplished. And y'all can let me know, is that real or is that Photoshop? I don't know. I was alive, but come on, bro. I was in diapers. Ariel Wani would jump in and throw gas on the fire as he synced up the audio from his show where Punk would describe exactly what happened. He synced that up to the surveillance footage, and again, it's exactly everything Punk said it was. This is when people would notice that AEW were handing out copyright notices to people who were reposting the footage. Even to this day, I'm not sure if on my video I can have this video contain the footage, because AEW be striking shit down like a fucking umpire. Like, I don't know. I would love to, but I'll leave a link in the description if so. This proves that AEW immediately knew this whole thing just backfired. The Young Bucks as well, going as far as to throw the owner of the company and their supposed friend under the bus by claiming they were against airing the footage, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous. These are the same dudes who are EVPs, refuse to have a meeting with Punk, only wrestle their style of matches, and only work with their referee, got all of their friends hired. You expect me to believe that these guys who have creative control of what they don't and do want to do did something that they didn't want to do? Fuck out of here. Like, I was born at night, not last night. Got me fucked up. It was a flop, and like I said, only helped CM Punk out as his name was buzzing again and the Bucks were being clowned again. AEW would never recover from this event. This would basically be the nail in the coffin for the company, as I believe AEW was dead and this was just spreading the ashes. So here we are today, and that was the last of the drama as far as I know from the outside looking in. Punk has taken quite a few shots at AEW since he left, which he's basically earned that. Basically, I can't get mad at him for that. Everything he went through with that company and probably still going through today. Yeah, he's going to take his shots. Punk is embroiled in the best feud, or now that this is being recorded, the feud is over, but the best feud of 2024, Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. Argue with your mama, argue with a wall. Maybe the greatest feud of the decade, who knows? But I think it's a strong contender. So Punk is still doing great work, and it seems like he'll be in the title picture soon versus Gunther. So obviously I'm happy. Teenager Coma Mikey is just happy to hear Cult of Personality with the It's Clobbering Time behind it. Punker looks better than ever and seems to be at peace for the first time in his wrestling career, even fulfilling something that's been a passion of his with him since the beginning of his career, which is reaching down and pulling people up with him. It's been beat to death, but his work in the developmental is highly praised. It's been rumored that NXT will be passed down to CM Punk when Shawn Michaels is done with it. And I can't be happier for CM Punk, the person and the wrestler. As for AEW, they did get the media rights deal that they wanted. They got a whopping $170+ million a year. Turns out that may not be for what they're going to do, but what they have done, as their entire catalog will be on HBO Max, or just Max now. Starting in January, you will be able to find CM Punk's entire AEW run on one platform, so that's great for them. But on the other hand, ticket sales are still down, merch sales are still down, they still have terrible merch, and they just hit an all-time low on AEW Dynamite ratings. I believe I think they had 300K for an episode of Dynamite, and to put that in perspective, when Punk was there, or even before Punk, they were in the upper 900,000s and sometimes hitting 1 million. 3 to 5 years later, you can't even crack 500,000, and on a regular basis, they can't crack 700,000, often being in the higher 600,000s or in the mid 600,000s now. They're not even beating NXT, WWE's developmental brand. I will point out that other than the back catalog for AEW being on HBO Max, we know none of the details of this raise, and it seems unlikely that a company doing so bad in all metrics would get a raise to that degree without something being lost in that's highly coveted, like more ownership. It's like heavily speculated that Warner Bros. Discovery kind of basically owns AEW. Again, we don't know because AEW is a private company, unlike WWE, so all we could do is speculate. I'm not a billionaire, I'm not a millionaire, but I can't imagine a company that is doing all-time low ratings, all-time low ticket sales, all-time low merch sales, is getting a raise that significant. AEW for the first time is now profitable. They've built new stars and some of my new favorite wrestlers, such as MJF, Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher, Swerve Strickland, etc., complemented by veterans and Hall of Famers such as Edge, Christian, Jim Ross. MVP just debuted, so maybe now Bobby Lashley isn't too far away, and complemented by Shelton Benjamin. AEW of old to me is dead. because the revolution is dead. But that doesn't mean AEW can't succeed. It's just time for a new era. And that's okay. WWE went through many eras, as we all know. Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era, the highly criticized PG era, and now the most successful era of all time, Triple H era. It's time for a rebuild, but you can't rebuild making the same mistakes of old. Treat the CM Punk time as a lesson. Although you fumble may be your biggest star ever, take it as a learning lesson. Tony Khan, I'm talking to you. This is a plea right now to Tony Khan. I hope he's listening. Actually, I know most likely he's listening because he takes advice from his biggest fans on YouTube. And I know you watch this. I know you be on social media as much as anybody else. So this is for you. I don't know much, but I do know, and I think it's common sense. You cannot have stubborn people who are not willing to learn, who has never been successful or even participated in success, be higher ups in your business. Although business should be respectful in a collaboration of passion for what you love, the business has to come first. Stop hiring your friends to do the work of professionals. It's okay to not be a leader, Tony. Tony Khan, you are not a leader, and that is okay. Hire someone and let it be known they are the leader to keep the locker room in check. Even Vince McMahon had The Undertaker. Tony Khan, you're not a good booker. It's time to give up booking. You can make amazing matchups, but if every match is a 30-minute Dave Meltzer banger, who cares? If there are no stakes, who cares? No good stories, who cares? And one last thing. This whole we're not WWE shtick isn't working. We get it. You're not them. And that worked when they sucked. But now WWE is pretty good. They're not perfect. I would even say they're not great, but they're good. Take from them what people love and what works for them and apply it to AEW. Dismiss what people hate from them and what doesn't work and keep it far away from AEW. They have half a century head start and we don't expect you to be neck and neck with them in half a decade. But that also means there are half a century of mistakes, scandals, and fuck-ups that you can learn from. I'm rooting for AEW. We absolutely need AEW. Don't believe me? Look at Punk. Although Punk has said there was a chance he would have gone back to WWE in 2019, but it fell through and Nick Khan has always wanted him back there. Vince McMahon really didn't want him there. So if there was no AEW, I don't believe we would have seen CM Punk in wrestling until about late 2022 or early 2023. And a lot can happen in a year and a half, as I've explained throughout this video. So if all of this could happen in a year and a half, imagine if Punk just within that year and a half just says, fuck it, I want to stick to acting. Fuck it, I want to do this. I want to do that. And he just never returns to wrestling. We may never have Punk back in wrestling if it wasn't for AEW. And outside of that, imagine a wrestling business without MJF, without Darby Allin, without Samoa Joe. Where would FTR be if they didn't have a home for the last 4 years? And maybe they need to get out of there now, but the point still stands. AEW has provided more jobs for cameramen, stage assistants, producers, editors, etc., etc. There is a lot of good foundation in AEW being held back by the ineptitude of the top. I know someday they will prosper. We just really need to get through those certain few. And I remember 2018, and I remember 2017, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, etc., etc. And I would really like to never go back to a one company wrestling business again. So AEW, please get your shit together. You fumbled your biggest star ever, and that's okay. You got the infinite money glitch. You will survive. But surviving was never the goal. Competing was the goal. Stop booking for the sickos, book for everyone. Because whether we would like to admit it or not, we need AEW.